recording. Hit that record button. Okay.
Alrighty.
Full screen. And yes, welcome everyone to the episode 10. Yay, it's for 10 episodes of Video Game Anatomies. We've got another podcast episode here, and I'm joined by two lovely guests here today. We're joined by both Jude and by Adren. How are you, gents, today?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. How are you doing?
Less stressed because the hard part of the week is over. So, how are you doing, Jude?
I'm alright, considering everything. I'm writing a semester test tomorrow, but other than that,
And you're here
easy
doing a
claps.
podcast episode. The dedication is unreal. But okay, I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Anyway, yes, so today's episode, as you can tell from the title and everything, is all about relationships. The camaraderie of that loyal friend to the end that's got your back no matter what. Those steamy romance scenes that you have to close your door for because there's no way your parents should be walking in on that stuff. Relationships in video games have been a more recent mechanic, but there's no question that it is gamified, oversimplified kind of concepts of relationships compared to like real life. It's transformed a lot of genres, the landscape of a lot of genres, especially. RPG being one of them, like huge differences made as soon as relationships and building and that stuff enter the game. And it's just opened up the floodgates for a lot of opportunities for different genres and different ways games can like grow into themselves. But yeah, we're gonna probably start off with the kind of big questions here that probably everyone's got on their lips and minds and everything. How about both of you tell me, what do you think is the greatest video game romance for you of all time?
Greatest romance. Jeez, that's a heavy one. Oh. For me, off the top of my head, it would be The Witcher 3.
Ooh, I like the
Simply
style.
because that's the one I most recently played. So yeah, I'd say The Witcher 3. It's got a good
Okay.
couple of romance ties there.
Okay. How about you, Jude?
This might be a controversial one, and I might get a lot of flack for this,
Mm-hmm.
but I will stand with my statement because I thoroughly enjoyed the game. This was before it went
I
on
know
discount
who
and
this
everything.
is.
Yeah, this was way before it went on discount and everything, but it was Panem and V.
Oh no.
I don't judge Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk's a good game right now. I'm gonna get back to that later in this podcast, but Cyberpunk's a really good game right now. No joke.
I mean, even before all the patches and stuff, it was a really good game.
It was a
But
really
that's
good
besides the
game.
point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we digress. So one is voting for Pan Ass, which I get that one. But I'm gonna fire you a question because you did set yourself up for it, Mr. Adren. Are you Team Triss or are you Team Yennefer?
All the way Team Yennefer.
Good man.
Triss is nothing.
Good man. Good man. I like that answer. I do like that answer. Probably a little bit of a more difficult one, but I did also want to kind of keep both sides of the thing open. But now, not romances. What is the best friendship in video games? Maybe for both of you.
Oof. Dude. Off the top of my head, I really did enjoy Ratchet and Clank's sort of like friendship
That's a
from
good one.
all the way back when when I'm not sure when they started releasing the Ratchet and Clank games, but I think it was on PS2. Correct me if I'm wrong, but from all the way when I started.
But yes.
Yeah, jeez, okay, my bad. Sorry about that. But ever since I started playing Ratchet and Clank, that was the one like dynamic duo friendship that I've always seen that was going strong, and it still is going strong. So I definitely say Ratchet and Clank is definitely up there.
That's a good one. I like that answer. It was a game that like they never really questioned why they were friends. It was just kind of, there's a robot, there's a Lombax, and they're friends, and there's nothing wrong with that. So like, okay, they're pretty good friends, and it's been a really, really solid, like, what's it now, 24 years
Oh
of
my
them
goodness
friendships. So
gracious,
yeah.
that's a very long
Insane.
time.
How about you, Adren?
Myself,
Hmm.
I'm gonna shout out a very overlooked group of friends actually in all of gaming, and that would be the ghosts from Pac-Man. Imagine
Oh
being
yeah.
banded together with nothing that's separating you from certain death besides
Certain
being
death.
able to
I was
run
about to.
together. So I
Very.
don't know. I've always liked the concept of Pac-Man, and I've enjoyed the game a lot in my early days. So I'm gonna go with the Pack of Ghosts.
Good on you for also bringing recognition to that game, because I don't think people should ever forget those type of games. They kind of are the reason why a lot of what we have is here. So good on you for shining some light on that. I think that's a solid
What
one.
about you? What about you, Armin?
Yeah.
What is your like top tier like friendship in gaming?
So just to track back on the romance one, like there is a few. I liked Witcher's one was strong, really strong romances on that one. Halo and Cortana was a strong romance up until I think to the Halo 5 or something. Then it got really weird or kind of thrown away. Dead Space had really good romance. There were a few. Like if you go and look for between friendships, friendships. I kind of like the bond a lot of people share in battle or through really hard times. So recently, I've been getting a lot into the Yakuza game series. It's been kind of a very late
Ah,
time for me to get into it, but I've been liking it a lot. So that sort of friendship in those games are kind of really cool to watch, and they also have really nice relationship building mechanics as well. That's been like with us for some time. So that's a really dope one. Another one I'm gonna mention because most people don't really see it as a friendship, and I guess you don't really want to say it's a friendship. It's more kind of a bond between two people. But Ellie and Joel from Last of Us had an amazing bond or relationship where
Yeah.
he kind of just became a father figure in the same sense that she became a daughter. But it's not really that. It's more of this in the unlikeliest of things, they know they got each other's backs. So what more could you ask for in like the most hopeless of situations is someone who's got your back. So
yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I am, however, going to come with an unpopular opinion. I didn't like The Last of Us.
Ooh.
did you not like number one or number
Get him out of
two?
here. Get him out of
um,
here, admin.
number one, I didn't like number one personally.
It's
I
fine. It's fine. I think I liked it. I've to be honest, I like number one because it's the first time I've seen such a type of story play out in gaming. And then we got like I've always felt like it was a Netflix effect. I kind of didn't mind number two's story, but the problem was number two's story started to feel like a Netflix show for me. And then I was like, I've seen so many Netflix shows that are like this. Back when number
Mhm.
one was around, there wasn't really Netflix as big as it is now. So kind of number one story was for me so good because it was like, you've got all these real feelings and everything mixed up here. And then like Netflix came around and like pretty much took over such genres for like 10 years. And now everything kind of feels saturated. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
It's a
that
weird
yeah,
space to be in
yeah,
because gaming really got a stride into really complex and intricate and diverse stories, and then like something like Netflix with TV series and all that took so much over that now every single real story out there is kind of like, you know, just another Netflix series or whatever. So it's
you're not
weird.
wrong.
It's a pop culture thing. It's really weird. Like you have to kind of tune out to appreciate a lot of what you are seeing today. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's also another thing that's probably gonna we're gonna see more of in the next few years or so. But yeah, now that we mention, I also wanted to mention in the previous podcast of the boss fights thing. I mentioned how boss fights were such a cool concept in gaming, and it became so gamified that we started to use boss fights in pop culture. Like after gaming did it for a while, boss fights would come up in movies. You could talk about boss fights in public, and most people would know what you mean, like what's a boss fight and all that. And it kind of cemented itself in a lot of media. Where with other gaming things, you can't just like say something in gaming and expect anyone to understand, unlike what a boss fight did. But for me, interestingly enough, the relationship mechanics we have in game these days actually kind of flipped the switch on that. It was first a pop culture thing, and then they integrated it into gaming. And it's one of the few ones I think that did that. The reason being, I think, is that like for a lot of modern stuff, you can think about like a few years back. Like every movie's got like this romance and this relationship and stuff, but it only really became a trendy thing, take for example, way back when that garbage called Twilight came out, right? Garbage movies called
You're
Twilight came out,
cutting.
and they were literally the
Sorry
most
to
insignificant
interrupt
thing
you,
ever,
Armin.
right? Wait, what did you say?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Saying sorry to interrupt you, but I think you're cutting out a lot.
Can you hear me
So
now?
just check your connection for a sec.
Oh no. Can you hear me now?
It's still cutting out quite a bit.
Oh no. Can you hear me now?
No, it's still cutting out. Or is it just me, Jude?
No, he's cutting out. He's cutting out. But
What?
like right now, it seems like you're fine.
Okay. I'm opening up the other connection just in case it's on standby. Where did you
When's-
lose me?
When you when you're speaking about the the relationship mechanic coming from the movie scene into the gaming scene.
Oh, okay. So for me, the modern ones, especially
Mm-hmm.
like in pop culture, right?
Yeah.
If you think a few years back to like when that really rubbish Twilight stuff came through, like that really rubbish movie series, it was the most insignificant thing I've ever seen, but it did something really weird to like a lot of people because all of a sudden these people decided I want to pick a side and that guy's like the guy. I want to be Team Jacob. I want to be Team Edward. That kind of thing wasn't really in movies around um like before that. That was really like one of the first movies that got that sort of what do you call it, shipping, you know, shipping characters, shipping relationships, thinking who's the best relationship in a movie or whatever.
Oh yeah.
So that thing I think sets kind of a firecracker under the modern romances we see in game stuff. Because as I said, I literally quipped with Adren just now, like about Team Yennefer and Team Triss, but that's a real thing. Like, if you go to Witcher 3 communities, people argue about that all the time. Are you Team Triss? Are you Team Yennefer? Why do you like her? Why do you like her? What's so good about her? Whatever. It's generally like the weirdest kind of thing of pop culture integrating into gaming with the modern relationships we see. And I don't want to like kind of misconstrue stuff here because romancing and relationships did exist in video games way before like Twilight and all this stuff. And
Yeah.
but back in those days, relationships and romances were just simply portrayed. Like it wasn't a thing about there was this big hoo-ha about like you could choose the relationship you want. It was kind of just an on-screen relationship playing in front of your eyes. But even before that, right? When you go back to arcades and stuff, you can imagine there was no real arcade game out there that was doing relationship stuff because how? Like they can't have relationships really. They were just called Space Invaders or Pac-Man as actually I'm lying now because there's Pac-Girl, so that's technically also one. But apart from like that, like it was a Space Invaders or shoot that ship or get the high score or play pinball, whatever. There wasn't really like, oh, it's a cute girl on the screen and she's gonna be like the damsel in distress. There wasn't that type of stuff. Now I want you guys to think really out of the box here because it is really out of the box. If you had to think about the first time or the first appearance of romance in video games, apart from Pac-Girl now, that's a very kind of anomaly one. But the first time you saw any sort of romance or relationships in video games, what type of romance and relationships was it?
To be fair. Oh, sorry, Adrian,
Yeah,
you're
no,
saying?
you go ahead, sir.
No, I insist, man.
Oh. Oh, I guess for me. Oh gosh. I played God of War. I think it was God of War 3, was it?
Mm-hmm.
On PSP back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a mission where you like save a damsel in distress, and I guess she repays you off screen. So
Mm.
that may have been my first encounter with video game romance.
You tap that circle, huh?
Oh my
Yeah,
days.
I guess.
It's all the prompts. It's just a circle, and you jiggle your joystick like this. I'm not lying. This were the actual prompts. I remember that mission. That was Aphrodite.
Oh, you remember that a man of culture, I like it.
That was Aphrodite, dude. Why would I forget her?
Legend.
Yeah, on my side, the first time I dealt with romance in a game would probably be in primary school. I think it was grade 3, so a very long time ago. But it was but no, sorry, it wasn't grade 3. It was grade 4. It was GTA 3.
Oh yeah, nice. Did you get your
I know
money back?
this. No, 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 no. But to be fair, I wasn't. I didn't really have many games that focused on like romance and stuff like that. As I said, Ratchet and Clank,
Mm.
Middle of Honor, Call of Duty, Devil May Cry. Yeah, yeah. So you can see where I'm going with this.
Mm-hmm.
Not a lot of the games that I had, mind you, I
Were
was in grade
romance.
4.
Yes.
Not a lot of the games that I had focused on romance. And GTA 3 technically didn't focus on romance except for
Services, of course. But yes,
yes.
it's
Yes.
just one of those things. As I said, no, but both of you kind of were on the right lines there. So that was like, if more or less that was your first experience, that's not even like putting it lightly. The 1980s, when like everything was still arcade and stuff, I think like this, I'm gonna try and reason this because I really was baffled when I was researching this as to why they thought this might be a good idea. I'm not gonna put this like lightly. The first romance in games were literally porn. Like
What?
not even like romance scenes. I mean porn. Porn.
And when
So
was this?
1980s, more or less. So
And
What
this was at
game was
arcade.
this? So I
I'll
can make sure to stay away from it.
is it now? Do you want the exact name and where to download it on Nexus mods, or are you good?
Yeah, that way I can make sure I never run into it.
Yes. So right, I'm gonna paint the scene and try and think of like this is what I think is kind of what went down at that time. But basically, this was like when home consoles were coming to market first time ever. Home consoles like just dropped, so you can like play your games at home and stuff. And I think they realized that because now it's home consoles and stuff, the games they were releasing were still very kid friendly in those days. They were like still releasing the Space Invaders, the tank, the asteroids, all that shooty kind of very simplistic games, that a child can enjoy. I mean, adults can enjoy it as well, but the thing is, it's just a very simplistic kind of content. There's not really a lot of depth to that content. And I think they realized, well, if we make home consoles, surely there's some sort of mature content we can make that adults can enjoy. But how do we make mature content with only that much memory on a memory card? So, yeah, do you pair horny devs with very little memory of trying to make adult content and you got porn? So, yeah, I've mentioned one of them before. Literally, it's called Soft Porn Adventure. That was one of the first ones in 1981. Not joking, literally the whole game is like a text adventure game, and it's a picture of a girl. She's like, "What can you do for me, Mister?" And then you like pick the right options and stuff, and like the picture just gets gradually more graphic, I guess,
Explicit.
as you like start picking the
Explicit.
right options. So, yeah, but wasn't just like a Western thing. It was also an Eastern thing. Like we talked about a year later in 1982. the makers of the Dynasty Warriors series. One of the first games they've ever made was called Nightlife. And it was an erotic title which they describe as visual aid for young couples. Pretty good marketing. But, that's one way to put it. And it's kind of not really where any of this ended. I'm not even like, so that's the people who made Dynasty Warriors. That was one of their first games. We're talking about Square Enix have made erotic titles before. I think theirs was called Alpha, which already like tells you enough. But it's like not only this is where it ends. So Sierra Entertainment, the people who made that soft porn adventure one, even went as far as to release a game series called Leisure Suit Larry. I don't know if you've ever heard that name before in gaming or not.
It's my first time hearing that name for
Right.
some odd reason, but it sounds familiar. But it's my first time hearing that name.
It sounds
familiar.
Too.
Yeah.
So Leisure Suit Larry is pretty much, if Twitter even like caught a whiff of this game this day, they would cancel it. The devs would have to issue like a 10-page apology statement. Because this content was lewd, to put it lightly. This content was really lewd. And it was kind of like now getting into a game. Like, literally the premise of the first game was this guy, middle-aged man, is a virgin. He has 8 real-time hours to sleep with any woman, or he commits suicide in game. He has 5 options, 4 of which he has to do missions for to like get to sleep with them, and the 5th one is a prostitute. But if you sleep with her, you get an STD and you immediately die. So I don't know how you can pitch that kind of concept in 2022, but yeah, it was wild times.
You must be joking.
I'm not joking. These were the games. This was Leisure Suit Larry. The entire series was kind of like this.
Yeah. So just to clarify, I've never heard of this game before in my life. This is my first time hearing about this. Just to clarify,
it has a good ending in a way, I guess. So this game,
he dies, but it's a good ending.
I'll get there right now. So obviously, as you can imagine, this game didn't exactly sell very well in its beginning because no store out there wanted to be known as the store who sells sex games. Like, I don't think that's really something you want to be known as. Like, you don't go to Blockbusters or Mr. Video at those times like, I'm going to rent a game, and it's like, ooh, good this section. You're not going to have that. Like, you'll lose money more than you actually make. But, yeah, and then like they thought, oh, it's a bust, they've wasted their money. They thought they would just kind of be funny about it and stuff, and like they wasted money now. And then literally at the end of the year of their first game, the sales just soared like this. And kind of the plot twist of all of this, who were the community or group of people that was buying this game all of a sudden at the end of the year to make it a commercial success? It was females.
Ain't no way, boy.
This game is one of the only games to have a majority sale of females. Of all games you can possibly imagine, and they're top sellers of female gamers. So I don't really know what they're talking about with this whole patriarchy BS because they started it all those years ago. But anyway.
Let's not get too controversial over here.
Yes, but it's fine. So these campy porn games did actually contribute a lot more than like you would originally think. And it did further the romancing game mechanic. So obviously Leisure Suit Larry was a once-off. That was kind of just to see how things would play out, and it kind of had a very weird success story. But apart from that, the ones that like made the first games and stuff, like I already mentioned the people who are making Dynasty Warriors, but Square Enix, for example, I said also made an erotic title. And Square Enix, as we know, later went into dating sims. Their most famous ones obviously being what was it? Oh, it's Final Fantasy, man. I blanked for a second. Final Fantasy was also one of their big games, and like a lot of the success that Final Fantasy has is attributed to the dating. and the romances you see on screen of like their characters, especially in Final Fantasy, I think 7 and 8 had exceptionally like appraised dating mechanics and romance and stuff like that. Also, like series like Persona really kind of came out of this, where it was a dating sim, like a high school dating sim and stuff, and it kind of led to the like the romances you see on screen and stuff. And it was all this thing about like they took those campy porn games and stuff, they toned it down a little bit so that they could unlock a completely new audience, which was teenagers. Because now imagine like put yourself in the shoes of like Final Fantasy or Persona. You're a teenager, you're going through struggles and stuff because Persona's all about like what's it, a high school kind of dating sim RPG adventure. I don't know if you've ever played Persona.
I've seen it.
Have you seen it?
Yeah.
So yeah,
I have played a bit of it on the PlayStation 3. I'm not sure which Persona it was, and I've also watched the anime.
okay.
Yeah, anime is a bit different. A bit
Yeah.
different.
But I think that's what kind of made this more alluring because now they've unlocked a completely different audience, a teenage audience with a little bit more mild romance, obviously. But the thing is, like, this is completely what a teenage fantasy is about. It's about going to high school. You get to like go to up to your crush in this fantasy world, and you know, like get to explain your feelings. You know, to go all out for them, and like you win the girl over. You know, it's kind of like that wasn't previously in video games before. Now they can just live out their imaginations because in no way would they in real life go and walk over to their crush and, you know, go have some actual confidence or whatever. So yeah, that was kind of the first kind of strides towards that. And on-screen relationships, I also mentioned on-screen relationships were also kind of really starting to become more frequent because apart from like Mario and Princess Peach and Zelda and Link, we kind of also started to have more friendships as well. You know, Mario and Luigi, Tails and Sonic started to come on the screen, and I think Tails and Sonic and Mario and Luigi actually was kind of a very cool duality of friendships, especially because those games are two-player. But the thing is, like,
Yeah.
it's literally you and a buddy now playing in this fantasy game of two people working together. I mean, that's kind of neat because that's a mechanic that wasn't around before, where like you can have two friendships type of real characters, and it's portrayed by you and your best mate playing on like whatever console you had. So that wasn't done before. But yeah, it was just a great ability to translate that to a different medium. And now, actually, because of all this dating sims and friendships starting to be on screen and romance to be on screen and stuff, a lot of games started to have these kind of things about like I already talked about Persona, but a lot of games were like, we can make like RPGs were still hot at this time, but if it were like, RPGs, a game where you're role playing and stuff, wouldn't it be great to be able to role play a person who could romance other people? Have that sort of mechanic in a game where now not only are you be able to role play your character, where you're, hey, Slow, are you here? How's it going, man?
He's muted. Oh.
Did you get load shedding?
Yeah, then I fell asleep like just under an hour.
I see.
My bad.
No worries. No worries. You missed the porn, unfortunately, but don't worry about that. You literally missed the porn by 2 minutes. He mutes himself. He's just gone. He just leaves the Discord.
Wow.
Man's got a girlfriend or something.
Maybe his mom's in the room. That would be awkward.
No. I'm just I don't know, man. Now that I miss it, I'm like really depressed.
No. Don't worry. It's fine. That's what the rewind button on the podcast is for. But anyway, we were just talking about when it comes to dating sims and games, when dating sims and like romances on screen and friendships on screen really came into stride. A lot of time at the height of like when RPGs were huge in the 90s, especially the computer RPGs and stuff, and like going into the 2000s, a lot of them thought like, it would be really neat if the role-playing character we have could romance a few people. We made it able to romance people and all of that. And I think, like, I would want to ask a question as well. When you think back on like the dating sims or the RPGs, like it doesn't have to be both of them in one thing, but maybe a dating sim or an RPG with good romancing and stuff. Is there anything that stands out to you that had like a really dope way of putting romancing or relationship building in RPGs or dating sims?
Armin, can you say that again?
So, like, imagine, for example, I'll try and give an example. We talked about the Witcher. Not really
Yeah.
a very great example, but like, if you were to romance a certain character in The Witcher, certain story elements play out in a different way because of
Yes.
you romance this character or you romance that character, and otherwise, like, they would accompany you to certain places and certain things would play out differently. That's a type of thing where RPGs incorporated romance and relationships into kind of to directly affect the game. So what I meant to say was, is there any kind of game that did that for you where it really stood out to you, like, whoa, they did a really neat thing here by like making this dating or romance or relationship mechanic?
I will have to go back to the game that I spoke about earlier, CP 2077.
Hmm.
Can I spoil a game for people? I mean, it's 2 years, so if you haven't played it,
I've seen the endings.
hard.
I'm a little bit bitter because I should have finished the game, but yeah, I know about the game. It's fine.
Yeah. But depending on who you went and had a relationship with, you'd have different options to who would help you with end game like missions and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So Cyberpunk 2077 would be one of the games where I'd say, depending on who you romance, would directly affect the line of the game, especially at the end.
especially,
In
yeah.
the middle, it doesn't really matter because you get to interact with all the other characters, NPCs. So yeah. Um, so it generally doesn't really affect the game, but end game, 100% affects it.
Okay.
So yeah, that's the one game that I could say um has an effect on the game. And now that I think about it, Assassin's Creed Odyssey as well. One of the NPCs in the game,
Mm.
depending on what you do with her, she will either choose to stay with you on the crew or she will decide to just like up and leave you. And whenever you see her again, you guys fight, and you either kill her or you get killed. So yeah, yeah,
Jealousy will do nasty things.
yeah.
Okay, we're gonna have an interesting conversation about Odyssey and like at the end of the podcast. But yeah,
Oh
Adren,
yeah.
before we continue, do you need to go or are you still good?
Still good for now.
Okay. And regarding this, like, do you think of anything that's like been really neat or innovative for you?
Ah, jeez. Can't really think of anything off the top of my head for this one. Unfortunately, I don't play too many single player games, eh?
I know. I figured. Mr. Slowly has been playing a little bit more single player games, especially lately. So maybe he has a really cool romance or relationship building thing he's got in mind.
The only thing I can think of is like the Yakuza series,
Ooh.
because like they have like this like telephone club that you can go to, bro, and like they styled it as like an FPS shooter, so you gotta like charge up like the ring dial thing, and then you gotta like shoot like the correct answer so you can actually like talk to her, and then like it carries on for like the next 5 minutes, and then you either get catfished or like you actually meet the perfect one. But like there's like three of the same kind of, so like they have three colors, right, of like what bikini they wear, right? So they have
Yes.
blue, white, and green, and in all those three, like there's only one right woman that you would actually meet up with, and it's kind of interesting, man.
So I do
It's
want to
cool
point. I
VR.
do want to point it out to like people. I'm not sure how much Adren and Jude has played Yakuza, but if they haven't played Yakuza, anything you talk about in Yakuza is going to sound extremely weird.
Yeah, but that's just the thing though. Like Yakuza is weird, but it's
It's
also interesting
weird.
at the same
That's
time.
that's Yakuza. We're not lying here. Yakuza's the weirdest game ever, but it somehow is the best game ever when it comes to story. Like I've described to my friends basically as like if you watch SpongeBob, right? SpongeBob is the most ridiculous, off the wall thing ever. Like half of the episode makes no sense, and then you get that one shot in SpongeBob that's like super detailed. Cinematography is like excellent. Everything's on point. That's Yakuza. That's what Yakuza is all about. But it's he slows right about that. It's so they've done really weird stuff in the past, but it's all funny. It's really actually a funny game.
Yeah, because like it's weird to like experience it when like the story is so like focused, you know, especially in Yakuza 0. Like
Yeah.
it's so focused where like you're chasing this one girl and then like you like, okay, let me take a break from the main story. Then you go to like a telephone club and you get catfish, and then like
Yes.
the way he like picks the phone up dramatically and puts it to his ear, and he's like mush mush. It's so fucking good, bro.
I know. Yakuza's the weirdest thing, but genuinely, if either you, Adren or Jude, if you haven't played Yakuza, please try it once. You'll like come back to me and they'll be like, "What the hell did you recommend me for? I never want to talk to you again," and I'll be happy.
But isn't it a turn-based game? Like,
No,
if it wasn't a turn-based game, I would enjoy
I
playing.
think
only
I
the
just
last
don't.
I
one.
think it's only the new games
Only
of
the last
the 6.
7.
The rest of I think fine. Like you know, like Yakuza 0, it's like your
Hack and slash?
classic like yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
You should do Yakuza 0. If you're gonna start with one, do Yakuza 0. It's excellent. It's really,
Can't
really excellent.
can't I start with them in chronological order? Well, not chronological per se, but like in the correct order.
Yes, so number 0 would be first.
Okay.
But yeah. So
Okay. Cool.
yeah, with all that ridiculousness aside, we saw kind of these relationship mechanics take hold, especially what I said in the beginning. It changed the landscape of a lot of genres, especially obviously RPG one, because I mean relationships in RPGs has been out there for like forever, and also a lot of other genres, but like also the on-screen appearances were way more now. We weren't only just getting them, in platformers like Mario or RPGs like Legend of Zelda. We were also getting kind of literally in action games now. I mean, Max Payne had a romance. I talked about Halo. Master Chief had a romance with an AI. And we kind of started to see it way more. Tragically, I think both of those romances die in both of those games, so maybe not the best examples. But we also saw more casual dating sim games. Literally, The Sims, it's all literally about relationships, started in 2000 at the turn of the millennium. And there's not really a game out there where you can play an absolute home wrecker like you can in The Sims. And it's just genuinely fun sometimes to be that despicable to people. But what?
So, I'm sorry. I wanted to say something, and
You
it
want to
sounded like
judge
you
my
wanted to
Sims
carry
experience?
on
Screw you! I'm gonna
No,
date that
no,
Grim Reaper.
I'm not gonna judge you. I was actually gonna say, the first time I played Sims was Sims 2.
Mm-hmm.
Like the first time I played it on like something that wasn't a mobile.
Yes.
It was Sims 2. And yes, I totally agree with you. The number of relationships that you can,
Destroy is very
destroy.
satisfying. I remember mine.
Satisfying is a
Yeah.
strong word, but the relationships that you can affect, yes, that's
All
top
I
tier.
remember very vividly is I had cheats on, and I don't know if you have cheats on, you can like add any family member. Anyone could be in your family who you want. And my old guy was about to die, and the Grim Reaper rocks up, and I'm like, I don't want this guy to die. I click on the Grim Reaper, add him to my family. All of a sudden, I'm in a romance with him. Like, oh well, now death is nothing. So, you know what? Go figure for The Sims for just making things weird and funny and casual dating. But yeah, we took like a lot of games at this point. We're just throwing relationships and romance and stuff into the gaming genres, and it was kind of really innovative at this time because, like as I said, once something hasn't been done before and it starts hitting that trend, you just see the innovation come through so well. So this was a really, really fantastic time, especially if you are keen on dating sims and dating mechanics and stuff. This was the time, like the early 2000s. But then there was one particular game really like that took it to a whole different level. Like I was talking about like all of this in the 2000s, but it's still, relationships in games have always kind of been arcade like. Like I talked about The Sims. In The Sims, you literally like tell a joke, the same joke 6 times, then you can propose to someone and they'll probably say yes. Or, you play Persona or one of those Eastern games, and literally most of the game is just throwing money at the character. Even Yakuza has that in its romances. Slow, how broke have you been from Yakuza because you have to like pay 1 million yen for flowers to romance one girl?
Oh yeah, dude. All that combat to get the money, just to
Yes.
spend 1 billion yen on the flower? Nah, bro.
I know. It's all for love, I tell you. So this was, like I said, it's very simplified. And obviously in gaming, that's okay because I don't imagine a lot of people want it to be like real life. But then the other people flipped the switch and said, what if we want to try and make it like real life? So this was one game series in 2007 that I think kind of massively took it, to the next level when it came to romances in video games. And pretty much a lot of, especially RPGs, what RPGs are doing now is pretty much loosely based on this model that they made. Also, I think it does help because the Twilight movies were really hot in 2007. So, like, you had a lot of this kind of shipping kind of craze going on when it came to characters and stuff. So, if you had to guess about this game I'm talking about, what would your guess be? It's a 2007 massive game, massive trilogy, that pretty much changed relationships and romances in gaming forever.
2000. Hmm.
Did it come out on? Did it come out on all platforms?
I think so. I don't think it was console exclusive. I don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Wait, did you say trilogy?
Yes.
Mass
did.
Effect.
It was Mass Effect. Very well done.
Jeez.
I don't count Andromeda, by the way. That didn't happen. That was.
I mean, Andromeda
figment.
isn't bad.
I don't want to talk to someone whose hair looks like a freaking stick that just moves like this the whole time when I'm having dialogue. It was literally like such a disappointing game for me. But yeah, the Mass Effect trilogy, I don't think people can like kind of underestimate how masterful BioWare was. Especially actually just not only Mass Effect, now I'm lying, also Dragon Age that came out at this time. Like they were really good with their romance and stuff, but like how well the romance is affected and stuff. Like, we were talking you were talking about Cyberpunk, about your romance at the end, especially in the end game, can matter a lot. And like the people who you kind of had good relationships with, it mattered a lot because it played out, the story played out differently. That was a Mass
Yeah.
Effect thing. Like they were doing it for the first time ever. We were talking about The Witcher, how different things can play out if you're dating Triss or if you're dating Yennefer. Not maybe as consequential, but still like the story and the cutscenes and stuff would play out different. That was a Mass Effect thing that they were doing for the first time ever. It was not only that, but it was like the fact that you can romance a lot of people with a lot of unique dialogue. It's not like a casual dating thing like The Sims where you can relationship and romance people, but if you're doing it with a guy or a girl or an alien, what's happening is pretty much the same. They're just laughing at your joke or accepting your proposal. This was different. Like Mass Effect really hit a home run when it came to this type of thing. Like just everything about how your loyalty with your crew members or the romances you have along the way shaped that story. And not only that, the fact that your romances can carry over from Mass Effect 1 to 2 and from 2 to 3, that was kind of just the cherry on top. Like, just to tell you how much it mattered for this to happen in gaming. It was so, so good for its time. Like, it really was just so good. So yeah, I can say, like, I've played Dragon Age Inquisition a little bit. I'm not sure if I'm assuming you've played Mass Effect, unless that was just a very good guess.
Of course.
Okay, I'm
Of
just
course I
making
played
sure.
Mass Effect, but it was many, many years ago.
Okay.
Andromeda, I still I've yet to finish. I started it 2 years ago. I lie. 3 years ago. I still haven't finished it. So
Not missing out. Don't worry
yeah,
about it.
yeah.
All right. Well, what about you, Slowly and Adren? Have you guys ever experienced that Mass Effect, experience?
I've heard a
Not
lot
really.
of hype about it, but I just never gave it a try.
Yeah, same for me. Like I watched like the Mass Effect Andromeda incidents,
Yes.
say Troll Despair, and I was like, you know what, this is interesting, but I'm not gonna play it. So I'm good. I am good, bro.
Look, I would be honest, like it's definitely an RPG that I think its real strength does come from its relationship building and romance and how it shapes the story. So if you're not into that, I don't think it's gonna be as great for you. But if you are into that, like it's a fantastic experience just to like watch like how well crafted it is to like tiniest detail of how like
I think it's just how it looked and how it felt. I don't know. I didn't really feel like, oh my god, I need to play this game, you know.
yeah.
So I just never really got into it, I guess.
Yeah. Well, as I said, like I was mentioned, I just played Dragon Age Inquisition. That was the only one I played. I've watched a lot of Mass Effect. I haven't actually, unfortunately, got to play it, but I've played Dragon Age Inquisition. And I enjoy Dragon Age Inquisition. I'm also not a person who's so much concerned with romance and relationship building in game that I would like go out of my way or effort to do that. But I enjoyed the fact that like how much detail they can try and like craft with that. That was really cool to see. And like I said, with these innovations, obviously you do get a lot of the kind of things carrying over and going forward. And as I said, maybe your RPG wants to be less consequential with their decisions, like The Witcher 3. And even if you romance either of them, some story decisions change and some cutscenes change. But at the end of the day, the kind of ending more or less wouldn't change all that much depending on who you romance. I hope you finished it, by the way, Adren, because that is a masterpiece of a game.
Sure, we'll go with that.
Okay. Well, I hope you finish it one day.
One in the distant future, sure.
Yeah. So on the other side, obviously, you can also have a very heavy consequential thing when it comes to romance and relationships. Another example would be Detroit Become Human. Like, it really mattered how well you were with your relationships with certain people in that game. Because if you didn't have a good relationships, the protagonist could literally die, and the game just continues. It doesn't kind of care. It's not a game over. It's just that, oh well, life goes on. So you had to be really careful in that game, especially with the relationships and stuff you had. So that was also the other side of the thing. But again, the phenomenon of Mass Effect and Dragon Age and those series, like the ripples went through the gaming community, and like a lot of things like that, sometimes people feel compelled that they need to have it in their game when it's not always necessary. We've like have a dozen of mechanics we've talked about in this series so far, where like some people thought, oh my gosh, we have to have this in the game. It's new craze and stuff, and then it comes out, it's like, we didn't really need to put this in the game. Like it kind of defeats the purpose. So I'm gonna go through a few of them, but if you had to think of a game series or maybe a publisher or just a game in general, what game for you didn't really need romance or relationships, or it felt like very forced? You know, when a relationship or a romance in a game feels really forced. Was there ever a game like that for you?
That's a good one. Jude, do you have any ideas? Since you're more versed in single player than me.
I'm trying to think of all the games that I've played and relationships that were forced, and I felt like this really wasn't necessary. Um, hmm. Mm, no, no. I based off of my current memory and you putting me on the spot. There really isn't any game that comes to mind whereby I would say that these people really didn't need to be together for the game to carry on. It was realistically unnecessary. I can think of anime 100%, but games no. Unfortunately
Okay.
not.
Okay. So I have one big culprit in mind, and maybe like that was just at the time what they were trying to do something new. Like it didn't really affect the game. I'm gonna be honest, it didn't really affect the game, but it did feel unnecessary. I think a huge culprit of this was Bethesda at the time. So what I mean is, in both their big series of Elder Scrolls and Fallout, round about like this time, just after Mass Effect was like in the hot like streak of the trilogy and stuff. Elder Scroll or Bethesda, I think, tried to do the romance mechanics and stuff with both of the games, but it just really felt unnecessary and kind of like a chore or just like why? So allow me to explain. Like Skyrim didn't really have that much romance you could do. Literally, the romance in Skyrim was this: you do a fetch quest for an NPC, you buy a ring, and you got married. That was a Skyrim romance. And sure, like whoop-de-doo, I'm married in the Skyrim game, but it literally did nothing for the game. Like it literally just meant you could marry an NPC, and you couldn't do anything. That's literally just all there was to it. And Fallout 4 was another one where in Fallout 4 we got companions. People who travel with you, people who kind of just go through the whole Fallout 4 experience with you, and like you in the wasteland together with them. And literally the whole extent of the relationship mechanic in that game was just reach max level with that character, and then you have a romance option, and it's instantly they say yes. So, kind of to put that in the game, I guess it's neat if you want to romance your companion, but at the same time, it's like if you're gonna do that minimal effort, it also kind of just feels like why bother in the first place. But again,
I mean,
minor things. Wait, were you saying what?
Oh, I was saying, I mean, I kind of see where they were trying to take it, because once you get to know someone and it gets to a certain point, then they can say yes, but the yes unconditionally, that's
Yes.
a bit iffy, because you can get to know someone, you can grow with them,
Yes.
but them saying yes indefinitely is
Weird.
not very representative of an actual relationship. So
Also, the
yeah.
other thing, like, I found kind of bothered by that game. Not that, like, it's a bad thing, but the thing is, like, okay, I'm going to compare two things here. Obviously, a little bit of a difference. So, for example, in Fallout 4, you can reach max level with your companion, and you could, like, romance them, and they would always say yes, irrespective also if you were male or female, and irrespective if they were male or female. Like I said, like, sure, you can have that kind of portrayal in your game, which is fine, but take, for example, Cyberpunk. You cannot romance Judy if you're a male. And that's just, that was it. That was kind of just, no matter how much she cared for you, no matter like how much stuff you would give her, if that is her sexuality, it's not gonna change because it's a game. And that felt
I mean,
way
you
more
get a mod.
real and kind of more realistic, I guess, than kind of just going Fallout 4 and like, what the hell? I've spent my whole life with you. Let's jump in bed. So, kind of just one of those weird things. But again, it's a gaming issue. Like, nowhere else except gaming would we have these kind of minor things to like squabble about and stuff like that. But another one, you mentioned Odyssey, and I didn't know about that NPC. I will admit that. I didn't know about that NPC one, so disregarding that. But I feel like Odyssey didn't really need romance all that much, or like the freedom, to give you romance of all you want. Because I feel like the romances in the game were kind of literally just that you had one romance option on some NPCs, and it was a one night stand, and that was it. So take for example, Origins is like they had a fantastic on-screen romance between Bayek and Aya, and that was fantastic to watch because it looks so genuine and stuff. And then you get to Odyssey, and the romance is just like, hey, it's ancient Greece, get in bed.
To be fair, Bayek and C were Bayek and Aya were married. I'll say Bayek and C were it's Bayek of Siwa. But Bayek and Aya were married, so it makes sense as to why their relationship felt genuine, because
I know.
they were married. But with Assassin's Creed Odyssey, yes, basically every other relationship or interaction that you have with someone else is a one night stand,
Yeah.
regardless. But the one that I'm speaking about, I'm not sure if you completed the entire mission, but we have to collect the legendary, we have to kill the legendary beast and then take it back to one of the female warriors.
I think so.
I think-
Yes.
Yes, so you have to complete all of that, and then you'll find her at her village, and it becomes this whole problem. You have to sneak in, and then you speak to her, fighting. You either you die, or you kill her, or you run away, and
Okay.
she will hate you forever. And then whenever they see you, they'll try to
Then
kill you.
they'll attack you.
Oh,
So,
yes.
like, I would have liked more of that maybe in Odyssey. Like,
Yeah.
No, I know I was being weird, but I remember I was playing it, and like the weirdest interaction. I remember seeing I was talking to this old lady NPC, and I remember distinctly she said, "My man can't pleasure me anymore," something like that. Like this old ass lady. And I remember one of my
I
dialogue options had
remember
a
that
heart
scene.
next to it, and I was like, "Ooh, I wonder if I can start a relationship with." her. And I clicked it, and then I realized it was one night stand. I was like, "What the?
Yeah,
What?"
I also experienced that. Dude, it was so weird, bro.
It was
Yeah,
so weird.
but I would have like genuinely just gone full on weird and like let you have a relationship with the old lady, like go genuinely through the steps of like building a relationship like that, not just the one night stand. Come on, that kind of just felt so. I was just like, oh, after that. But again, as I said, minor things, and then
Yeah.
yeah, the last one kind of want to mention, as I said, the power of love and friendship, relationships, and all that kind of started
Oh.
to wield a lot of power over games. Poor Jude has like stirred up all of the
Mm.
topics in the podcast at the very beginning. But anyway, the power of love and friendship and stuff had a huge effect on a lot of games and their receptions and stuff like that. Obviously, Jude has mentioned Cyberpunk a lot of times, and as he mentioned, and which is still true, even when the game was first released, Judy and Panam and all those romances were fantastic. But the problem was the marketing for that game said we were going to have very mature experiences. We're going to be able to like explore our sexuality and like explore all of this maturity, and you're going to have like deep romances and stuff. And you know what you got? Besides Judy and Panam, you got one male prostitute and one female prostitute on Jig Jig Street. That's what you got for like
No,
how
no,
many
no.
how
You
many
also got
outfits?
you also got the other police guy. I forgot his name.
River or Carrie or what's his name?
I forgot his name. But the guy with the one eye that's robotic. Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember. You also got him. That's for the other gender.
Yes, but
Well,
like
for females. Yeah.
yeah,
If
but
you
this
pick the
is
female
it
for
boggled my mind so much that like you can't market it and then like that's your limited romance options because like that's very limited. Like I get some of them. You don't want all of them to affect the main story and stuff like that. But you did say in your game that we're gonna be able to explore our maturity and stuff, and you know, no, all we got is just some saucier sex scenes. So that's
yeah,
exploring my maturity. I guess
yeah.
I'll just log on the net later tonight and explore some more. But
It's as easy as that.
Okay.
it's easy as that, just clicking around. But again, like I said, it has the power to destroy. But again, I'm going to mention this again, just for everyone out there. Cyberpunk is a really good game right now. So if I see any more hate about it, just know you're very wrong because this game has like
Yes.
really turned itself around. I'm going to be picking it up
And
again soon. So yeah,
and it has 20 million copies sold
copies
to
sold.
date.
Actually, that's true. 20 million copies sold, of which a majority of them have been in the last 2 months. So that's a lot to
Yeah,
put into perspective. Like for a game to
yeah.
like sell a majority of its copies in the last 2 months, and it's not free. I mean, the game's not gone free to play. It's still almost full price. So that just says a lot
I
about
mean,
how much they've done about the game and all that. But
isn't it
yeah,
basically half price now?
basically. But that's pretty much, I think, where romances have left us. As I said, the hot streak of it in the 2000s was really like kind of the place to be, and then BioWare taking it to the next level with Mass Effect and Dragon Age, and a lot of the places adopting it and going on like that. There's a lot more examples, to go through with really neat tricks. I think Xenoblade Chronicles, excellent game that did romancing very well or relationships very well. As we said before, the Yakuza games, especially the turn-based one, I'm kind of like it's probably a preference thing, but the turn-based one is excellent with its romance and relationship building mechanics because like just the way your whole party kind of effortlessly blends with each other because of their relationships and how they like fight together and the experience they get when fighting together. It's kind of really great to watch. But again, as I said, if you like more the real-time combat things of Yakuza, you should definitely try Yakuza Zero. That's really a game I would recommend. But yeah, I don't think like even we've like even scratched the surface when it comes to this mechanic. Because like again, if you compare it to real life, romances and relationships are such a deep thing. So like at the end of the day, games still have this kind of arcade-like approach. So I do believe there's a lot more that we can do with it. But I want to throw actually the question out there: if you want to look into the future of gaming, look into maybe the next 5 years or so. What do you see kind of when it comes to romance and relationship building? What do you think a lot of games are going to try, or maybe what's the next big thing that's going to come out?
You're gonna have to pay like $600 to meet with a chick that you'll only talk to like once in the entire existence of playing the game.
Stop
That's what I think.
VR. That's VR. That's just like the metaverse.
Okay, yeah, true, but like, you know, people who aren't rich enough to have VR, you know.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Also, would be a very realistic mechanic, so we'll keep that one in mind. How about the other gentleman, Mr. Jude, Mr. Adren?
I would
Mm.
I would hope that people actually a company would actually bring what CD Projekt Red initially offered with, well, not offered, but you know,
Marketed.
said with Cyberpunk, that they would basically, you know, reinvent, well, not reinvent invent the wheel, but give more freedom in a sense. So I would like to see more freedom in that aspect, and you know, uh, more more depth to it, more detailed and more consequence. And I know there was consequence, but again, like I said before, it was only towards the end of the game.
Mm.
And a relationship should affect the entirety of the game from start to finish, not start of the game, but like start of the relationship to finish. And that's what, you know, I would like to see. And you know, maybe if they have the, well, if they have the time to add it, breaking up with the person or separating from the other person has effects to the game as well. See, that is an actually like legitimate mechanic that they could add to like the whole dating mechanic.
That is
Yeah,
also
or
a very
relationship
good mechanic, yes. How about you, Adren?
I don't know. I think with the way the world and things is going, I think they're definitely going to start adding a lot more of the LGBTQ whole representation and
Okay,
exploring
so more,
relationships in
yeah.
that field to be more inclusive about them.
It's
Yeah, I
realistically probably where
definitely
it's
see
gonna
that
go, so
happening.
yeah. I think,
And
yeah,
you?
you've got a good point there where, like, obviously, like, it's not about pushing a political agenda, but the thing is about, like, you do want to sit there and say, like, well, why haven't we had a asexual character? Or why haven't we had a bisexual character before? Except if it's Skyrim or freaking Fallout, because at that point they were just pansexual. They would just go with anyone. So basically, Bethesda reinvented the wheel before we even thought about it. Anyway, the other thing I think also that I was gonna ask Adren because he obviously is a more multiplayer-oriented man. How about romancing and multiplayer, Mr. Adren?
No, keep that away from my multiplayer games.
No ape sex in
You're
Apex?
perfect just the way you are.
Oh, no ape sex in Apex. Come on.
No, 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 no.
Yeah. Well, anyway, yeah, I do think like I think Jude's got a really good one. Breakup should be way more significant. Kind of just then like the character saying, I never want to see you again or something like that. Like Odyssey had a cool thing of that. Like I didn't know about that. But like imagine that in an actual story setting. Where like they're really antagonistic and they kind of emerge as an antagonist without you really knowing it or something like that. But I think yeah, relationships are very, very deep and very, very complex stuff. So the thing is like you kind of tread on the line of where do I want to go with gaming? Do I kind of want to focus a lot on my relationships and my romance building the same way as Mass Effect did and make it more nuanced and deep, but knowing that my audience might be limited because most of my RPG is strongly based on that? Or do I want to keep it more arcade like maybe The Witcher, where it's like, yes, there was serious relationships and that, but most of the game is still like, you can mess around, they'll still love you, you know? So it's kind of the both worlds and where most of the gaming community will probably lie. But again, a lot of potential I think with this one. But yeah, that's I think all I have time for. And I do thank all three of my lovely guests for joining me again tonight for talking about, love, being the love doctors. So yeah, thank you, gents, for coming out. I hope you guys learned something. I hope you are not going to search those porn games.
Of course not. No way.
Slow, if you do want me to mention those porn games, just hit me up on Discord. I will DM you after this. So
You guys send me the link. I'm gonna use it for research purposes. I swear, please, man. Thank you, man.
okay, you and
Yeah,
Adren can
yeah,
maybe
yeah.
co-op because he also said he was going to research. So
No, I wanted to make sure I never got to that site. That's why I needed the link.
Surely.
Okay. But anyway, gents, thank you so much for being out here. I hope you guys also enjoyed the podcast. I hope everyone out there has had a lovely time. And yeah, hope you guys learned something. Other than that, you guys keep well, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next one.
Yay.
Papa Booey.